Okay, today is CAD 212, Architectural CAD, Class 17 on October 19th. Today in class, we're going to review curtain walls. And then on Wednesday in class, I will be meeting one-on-one with everyone to talk about their individual projects. So today, let's go ahead and jump into curtain walls. First off, today in class, what we're going to talk about is we're just going to do examples of curtain walls, how curtain walls work, different parameters and things like that. And then we're going to talk about how curtain walls will be incorporated into your main project. So let's go ahead and get started with some curtain walls. All right, so first off, obviously I need to draw some walls in this little example. So I'm going to go to Architecture tab, the wall tool. I'm just going to start with a basic brick wall because it just kind of shows up best. And I'll just do any kind of arbitrary size to show you. Let's just go to 3D real quick. So here you can see we have just a plain old little brick wall here. So with your regular walls in place, you want to start your curtain wall. So we're going to go back to the Architecture tab, Build Panel Wall Tool, select Walls. This time we're going to go to Properties, and we're going to do drop down in Properties. And we're going to scroll down, and we're going to use Curtain Wall 1. And you can see when we start drawing that curtain wall, it's going to automatically pick that location line for it to start. So if we wanted to do this from 3 feet out, we'll click there, and we're just going to draw the curtain wall in place. If we want to make that 3 foot as well, we can correct that at that time. So now I have a 3 foot on either side. But you probably noticed that it did give me an error when I embedded that curtain wall. So let's find out what happened. So let's go to 3D, and nothing happened. We got something weird that looks like this. So what's going on there? So in order to fix that, I need to select that curtain wall at this time, go back to my properties, go to Edit Type, and you'll notice in here it says automatically embed. So I need to check that and hit OK, and then it will actually place the curtain wall correctly. And you can see we actually have just a simple curtain wall in place. That's kind of like just a big pane of glass right now. So it's not technically a curtain wall, because remember, curtain wall is also structural. Good example of a curtain wall is that front wall at Sidney Collier, that big curved wall that has the glass panels and all the structural elements to support it. So right now, this is not actually a functional curtain wall. So what do we need to do to make this functional? Well, we need to come over to our Architecture tab, Build Panel, and the first thing we're going to do is create a curtain grid. And this is a way that we kind of think of it as a way of scoring on the glass, kind of etching it. It's putting the pattern in place for us to change, and then we attach the mullions to it after. So if you can see, let me change this style. As you can see, when I come in here, if you see that dashed line, that's going to be the location of where I want to start my curtain grid. Now, I'm not actually making a pattern. Right now, I'm just kind of showing you how to do it. When you lay this out, as you've noticed with many other curtain walls around, there's usually a pattern involved, and that's the interesting thing about it. You can add some interesting design elements when you're doing this. Notice my temporary dimensions are showing up as I start laying out this grid as well. We wanted to actually change that. You want to make that 6 foot, change that way. Now some horizontal grids. And notice as we're laying those out up in this section, we have all segments. We can also pick one segment if you just wanted one segment of that curtain grid to show. So you can see how we can have a lot of interest in how we add those, make a design within this. Let's finish that. Now with the curtain grids in place, now I need to place my mullions. So I'm going to go to Architecture tab, Build Panel, Mullion Tool. At this time, I can go ahead and pick one. You'll see that'll drop in place. So if we come up here, you'll see it'll be a grid line segment, just a segment of it, or all grid lines at once. So there may be times that you just want to do like a grid line segment, but the easiest thing to do is obviously all grid lines at once. So that is just a very simple curtain wall basics. And here we have this in place. A couple of detailed things that we want to take a look at here. Notice, and depending on the type of curtain wall it's going to be built, and usually if you're using a curtain wall, you'll get these parameters from your different distributors, your different curtain wall specialists. You can see that we have the way these segments intersect, the way these mullions intersect. We can change that up. Notice how this particular mullion protrudes through this mullion here. Well, sometimes we want to have like one solid piece across the top because we're thinking about water infiltration. And if we have one solid piece across the top and the bottom, it very much minimizes the water penetration or the possibility of it. So in order to make this one solid mullion across the top, we need to change the direction of these mullions, change how they intersect. So if you can see real close, we have like a little hashtag here. If you click on that, it's going to correct the way these mullions intersect. So this is something that I'll ask you to correct. So we have one straight piece across the top and the bottom. If you notice different curtain walls, some of them have different construction and they do work like this, but I do want you to have yours so there's one solid piece on the bottom and one solid piece on the top, just so we get practice at using these little hashtags. All right, so that's a very, very simple curtain wall. What we can do also is these different panels right now are glass, but we can actually change the material that these panels are made out of. So for instance, if I wanted to change this panel, what I would do is I kind of linger over here so those location lines are active. I'll hit my tab button and notice it'll cycle through different segments. So when this curtain panel is active, I'll click on it. Notice if I come over here to my properties, it says system panel glazed, glazed for glass. If I do this drop down over here, I can change that panel to make it look like whatever wall type I have loaded in here already. So I'll just use this brick. And notice I just changed that one panel to brick. So this is kind of interesting. So you would need to create different wall types prior to it changing out these wall panels. We could go in and create different glass colors. We could go in and create different opacities for glass. Some people have gone in and made metal wall types. So that way you can get definitely some interest in how you create your pattern on here. So if we were going to do that, so if we wanted to make like a metal wall type here, and go into wall architectural, Remember, I always want to start with the generic. I'll go into edit type. I'll duplicate it, rename it. I'll go into edit. I'll leave this as structural. I'm going to change this to maybe 1 inch, just for the thickness of that metal piece that I'm going to get. I'll go into my material categories. I think there's some metal in here somewhere. Let's just change it to this stainless steel. Oops, I always click too fast. Use render appearance. Okay, okay. Now I'm going to come in and say if I wanted to change this panel here. Sometimes the hardest part is getting the panel that you want. There's my curtain wall. And I just changed that to that metal. It doesn't look really good and realistic, does it? So there we have. So when you're doing yours in the in your actual project, you'll be creating a curtain wall. You'll be creating your own grid pattern, and then I do want you to replace some of the wall curtain wall segments, curtain wall panels with different types of material. Then when that's done, I'll make some red lines on this project and send those back to you for you to make corrections on them. And when we make the corrections, it may be removing different segments and redrawing them. So if we were going to correct some of these segments, if you were going to edit them, you could highlight them. And in order to fix that, we'd have to delete that. And then you see that once we deleted that mullion, the curtain grid is active. At this time, if I try to correct the curtain grid, it says I can add or remove segments to the curtain grid. And when I click on that, it just removed that one segment right there. So now we've removed that panel. We've removed that mullion, and now that larger panel is active. So once again, let's see how we can edit that. If I wanted to remove this mullion right here and have this as one pane of glass, I need to remove the mullion first. So we'll delete the mullion. And we just have the curtain grid available now. Now we'll click on the curtain grid. Now we can add or remove segments. And we've removed that one. So that's a nice way to edit that wall out. There's also a way using a curtain wall that we can create a clear story window. Clear story window is usually a long window that's higher than your sight line. It's usually about 6 foot or so higher. You'll see this a lot in modern architecture and things. So if we're going to create like a clear story window, let's see what we can do. I'm going to put that over here. I'm going to go back to my level 1 and create one over here. So here I'm going to go to my wall type. I'm going to go back to my curtain wall. And so I'm just going to put it over here. And since I used automatically embed on this one, the first time you do it, it will automatically embed future curtain walls without having to go into edit type. Let's go to 3D. So here we have that curtain wall that runs throughout that. But in order to do that clear story window, remember that's going to be a lot higher. So I'm going to highlight this, make it active. Here I'm going to do my base offset. Let's make that 6 feet. Now it's like all the way up here. And with this active, it says its top constraint is unconnected and it's unconnected to 20 feet. Well, now I'm just going to make this 2 feet. And notice how that's going to shrink that down to that size. Now we need to add our curtain grid. Just kind of arbitrarily picking. Now I'll add my mullions, all grid lines, and do them all at once. I'm just going to correct these. I just think it looks better. And then we have a nice clear story window. So you can see there's a lot of things that you can do. You can create your own windows using the curtain wall tool. It's actually, once you kind of learn how to play with it, it's a lot of fun. So that's pretty much a quick lesson on curtain walls. So any questions on that before we move into how we're going to incorporate that into our current building? Probably one of the best things to do is just kind of get in there and play with it. What I recommend first is to do a separate curtain wall in a mock project, just like I did here. And that way you can kind of play with it and manipulate it until you feel comfortable with it, and then incorporate it into your actual project. So let me go ahead and jump into a project I have open now. So this is a student's project. I'm just using it to show you where we're going to put that curtain wall. So say you have a client that has reviewed your design and now they're like, oh, I want to put a curtain wall right here in my property. So we're going to make this section of the building, we're going to have this as a part of the curtain wall that's going to expose the staircase. So we're going to put it right here so everyone can do that. So at this time, we'll go ahead and we're in level 1. We're going to go to our wall tool. We're going to use our curtain wall. And we're just going to embed that in here. Once again, it says highlighted walls overlap. We'll go into edit type. We'll click on automatically embed and hit OK. Notice that it corrects itself. Now we'll go to 3D and take a look at it. And we've got something that kind of looks like that, which gives us a pretty cool view. So what's going on with this curtain wall? A couple of things I need to correct on this is it doesn't go all the way up to the top. It kind of stops right here. So we need to change the height of that. So with that active, it says it stops at 20 feet. Let's make that 29 feet. Actually, it's a little high at 29 feet. I'm going to make that 28 feet. Usually these are things in your design that you already have planned out, but we're just kind of 27. Okay, that's 27. I just wanted to make sure I had some brick above it right here. That's better. That looks a lot better. All right, so we have our curtain wall embedded. The next thing we need to do is create our grid pattern. And what I tell students is to, usually if you sketch something out first or have an idea, like actually a hand sketch, how you want to make your grid pattern. It usually works out a lot better than just kind of coming in here and arbitrarily like putting, you know, the grid pattern on here. So have an idea how you want to draw it. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to arbitrarily do it right now, but just kind of try and make a pattern with it when you're laying this out. So at this point, I'm going to go to my curtain grid, and here's where I can score the glass. Yeah, that's not as busy. I'll just put a couple in here. So now we have our curtain grid. Now I need to go in and add my mullions. I'll do them all at once. We've got those added. Oops. Just go ahead and correct these. And when we zoom out, we've got a nice simple curtain wall here. So this will be what is expected in your drawing, to incorporate the curtain wall into this area right here. We do want to have a more interesting curtain grid from you as opposed to this a very simple one that I did here. I just wanted to get that on there for you. But that's pretty much about it for what you to do with the curtain walls in this. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody who has that wants to play with this a little bit more and incorporate more of this into your building, you can't. You can make more curtain walls in other places if you want. I wouldn't go hog wild on it just because it'll look a little busy. But you can definitely have this section here incorporated into your building so we can see that curtain wall being used, and it also is kind of interesting. When we do this, we can see some of the corrections that do need to be made in this drawing here, such as this wall section, but I'll talk to the student about it when we get to that. That's about it. That's curtain walls for you. Any questions about that? Best thing to do, this one we did go through this pretty quickly, so maybe if I were you, I'd go through the video again and just get in there and do a practice wall and just kind of play with it. You'd also want to change out one of these panels for either a metal panel or a brick panel, or you can make it different glass shades, which is really nice too. It looks pretty cool. But that's pretty much it for the lecture today. I'm going to have a mod live that will just be final project curtain walls. That will be due relatively soon, preferably by Tuesday, so that way we can review any questions that you have on Wednesday. If for some reason you can't get the mod done before class on Wednesday, then just make sure that you get it done by the weekend. We'll talk about those one-on-one. When I send out that emails, at the time I send you doesn't work, all of them will be within our regular class time, so it should work for you. If for something that comes up and that doesn't work for you, send me an email back and we will schedule another time to meet later in the week. I do want to meet with everybody one-on-one just so we can catch any kind of issues within your model before we get too far along in the rest of the class. Any questions on anything I went over today so far, y'all? Okay, if there are no questions, we'll go ahead and drop class, end class for the day. But definitely go in there and play with this curtain walls today. It actually does get to be a lot of fun. And then once you get more comfortable with them, how you can incorporate them into different areas of your building will actually be pretty interesting. So,
I wanted to talk to you when everybody leaves.
okay, yeah, no worries. Um, let me stop sharing. All right. So unless anybody else has any questions, we can go ahead and drop. And then keep an eye out for those emails, and I will talk to y'all on Wednesday. Let me stop the recording.